Good morning. We'll call this meeting the Allegheny County Board of Legislators to order for September 17th, 2025. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barnes,
Present.
Mr. Bissett, Mrs. Burdick, Mr. Curran, Mr. Demick, Mr. Fanton, Mrs. Hanchett, Mr. Harris,
Here.
Mr. Havey,
Here.
Mr. Healy,
Here.
Mr. Ricky,
Here.
Mrs. Ricketts Swales, Mrs. Root, Mr. Rumfelt, Mr. Stockin. 8 present, 7 absent.
Just made it. Okay, kind of like a smorgasbord today for our committee of the whole. The bulk of it is going to be consumed with discussing some of these local laws we're finally going to get over the finish line. Also, a board rules update. And then just a couple little informational agenda item pieces. So number 3, department head orientation. Just an update to the board that have confirmed with all the anticipated newly elected legislators that a date of December 9th is good. That's a Tuesday, I believe. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to do a full day orientation with invitations to all department heads. It's going to be held at the Crossroads, and we'll provide lunch up there. So if you're a department head that happens to be listening to this meeting and this is news to you, information will be coming out from the administrator's office about what the structure of that orientation is going to be. But in general, it's a way to onboard, help the newly electeds get onboarded, get a broad understanding of county government and its functions, and then more specific understanding of individual departments and their functions, their goals and objectives, and so forth. So more to come on that. Going down to number 4, board rules update. So this has been years in the making. It's been, the board's been aware and administration's been aware that the board rules needed a refresh for many years. County attorney and the clerk of the board's office and the administrator's office have all been working together, combing through the board rules to come up with recommended changes for the board. Some of those recommended changes actually originated with board members. Others are purely legal necessities, and others are recommendations from administration and legal. So I'm going to turn it over to the county attorney. The function today is not to consider this. It's to have it presented to us. We all got it by email yesterday. It's going to be presented to us today. There's time for discussion today if you want to discuss it today. Otherwise, I believe the intent is for this to be considered at next Wednesday's Ways and Means Committee to be forwarded on to a board vote in early October. So, County Attorney, welcome.
Good morning. Yes, so today we are presenting to you the draft board rules that have been revised. I do want to thank everybody who has been working on these for quite a bit of time, especially the clerk of the board's office and the county administrator's office. And I want to give special thanks to the people who have been working behind the scenes. Sarah Decker, Mallory Short, and Michelle Kelly. They have put a lot of time and effort to make sure that all the changes and discussions that we have had over the months that we have been working on this and getting this ready to present to the board have been memorialized and captured correctly. So they have put a lot of work into this, and we really appreciate all that they have done. So as Chairman Harris has already stated, a lot of the what you see before you are suggestions that have been gathered since the last time that the board rules were updated, that were made by legislators. Many of the changes that have been made have also been captured and have been done to make sure that the board rules are also in compliance with county law as well as general municipal law. The other thing that we made sure that we did with these board rules is that we captured how we actually conduct our proceedings. The current version of the board rules that we operate under, they're good, but they do not accurately reflect how we conduct our business. And we wanted to make sure that moving forward, we show exactly how we are doing our business the way that we do. We've also addressed some areas that we felt needed to be reflected that may have been missing some areas. We also know sometimes that we do have some questions about procedure, especially with some things such as recusals and abstentions. So we've clarified those pieces. We have taken out the penalty associated with the abstentions. I know that Chairman Harris was very passionate about that during our discussions. So yes, we do plan to discuss this at next week Ways and Means Committee. We understand that this got circulated late in the day yesterday, but if you do have any questions to bring up this morning, myself and everyone else who has been involved with it is happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
Yeah, you're right, there's a lot here, and thank you for your office and Carissa's office for getting this put together. This is a huge lift. I guess either today or perhaps at Ways and Means, would someone be prepared to highlight the changes for us, if that would be okay? Thank you.
Yes, we can be prepared to highlight the changes for you at next week Ways and Means Committee.
The only thing I'd say with that is, that was my thought too. It's always nice to have that, like red pennant, show me the strike throughs, show me the additions, that kind of thing. There are so many changes to this, whether they're, substantial or minuscule or just pure grammar, or that if you attempted to do that in that style, it would be counterproductive. You would never be able to wrap your head around what the changes are. But maybe just like a bulleted list of the significant changes. Is that something that would work for you?
Exactly. Not interested in grammar, not interested in slight tweaks to adhere to the law, more interested in procedure as it pertains to us that has changed so that we do it correctly.
Yes, we can have that prepared.
Any other questions or comments for now on that? Jen?
I just have one question. I was looking at electronic devices, basically it's saying silencer mute, and also cover recording. Did I miss that somewhere else? Because I'm just thinking about down by the floor, it says no recording devices beyond this point in an incident.
Mhm.
The recording device, and I'm just curious if we should add that somewhere, or is this something we should talk about, or should we just ignore it?
So regarding recording devices and electronics, that actually will come up in our, that will actually come up, that part of the question will actually come up in our ethics law discussion today. I think what you're trying to get at. Yes.
There's part of the board rules that say that the chairman has the flexibility to ensure that there is order maintained within the chambers. So that gives some leeway to ensure that, if there's recording within the chambers, it can't disrupt the proceedings. That being said, I think the county attorney would steer us in the direction that it's absolutely permitted to record
Correct,
public
yes.
meetings.
Yes.
I mean, it is recorded on.
Yeah, but I mean,
Right.
a member of the
Well, we
public
can-
can come
right.
in here and record our meetings.
Correct, yes, we cannot, we cannot prohibit members of the public from recording the meetings. We can designate specific areas which they can record from. They cannot record from the middle of this, the middle of where you're all sitting and obstruct the view. So we can set designated spaces where they have to record from, but we cannot preclude them from coming in and recording.
That's fine. I
Yeah.
just know it.
County Administrator, anything to add? Or is that covered?
Just that the chairman has the right and the ability and duty to maintain control of the boardroom. So public may have the right to come in, and the media too, to video or sit and take questions, photographs, but they can't obstruct the meeting, and the chairman always has the right to call the business to order. And as the county attorney mentioned, you'll see a little bit more in the ethics, because there are some state laws in play already about using portions of video meetings for political purposes that.
Okay, anything else on board rules? Okay, since you're up there, Allison, let's go right into local laws. So, we're not considering these today. Purpose of this is, now these I think you've had in your inboxes for some days now. Purpose of these is just have them presented to you. This is our opportunity in a committee of the whole to have more elongated discussion if you want to have discussion on them. But the intent is for the county attorney to prepare MOEs for Ways and Means to consider these again next Wednesday, correct?
Either myself or the county administrator's office would prepare
Okay,
MOEs to set the public hearing dates.
okay.
Yes.
All right, so let's just go right down the list here. The first one is law authorizing appropriation of funds to the airport.
Yes. So the previous local law that we have that appropriated funds to the Wellsville Municipal Airport has sunsetted. This proposed local law is basically the same local law that the Board of Legislators originally passed. It would authorize the appropriation of monies to the Wellsville Municipal Airport because of the beneficial impact upon industry and tourism that the Wellsville Airport has. That no money may be appropriated unless the town of Wellsville and the Wellsville Municipal Airport would indemnify Allegheny County and hold the county harmless from any and all claims. Even though that you would pass this local law, this does not bind the board to appropriate money in any year. So you are not committing yourselves to either put anything in in appropriate funds during your budget process, or if they make a request, if the Wellsville Airport makes a request during the year, that you have to grant that request. And you can make the final decision as to when you would like the local law to expire. I have drafted that it would remain in effect until January 1st, 2028, which would mean that it would become effect immediately and would go through the duration of the next board term, which is currently 3 years. The prior local law that was passed for some reason, and I do not know the history about it, did go into the first year of the term of the next board. However, I would not recommend binding a future board to anything that this board would pass. I would, but you can also make the end date of this local law any date that you would choose. So that is what is being proposed in this local law. Those are the highlights. I'm
Okay.
happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments? Mr. Healy?
I'll make just a brief comment on the economic development part. If that's, it's going in reverse, if that's instead of in forward for any part that plays in economic development. I think we're just subsidizing the town here, so I don't necessarily want to debate that at this time, but why wouldn't we make that just generic and make it available to all towns instead of just to the Wellesley Municipal Airport? So I'll apply to any town that might apply for a gift or whatever it is, funding.
So I will say that, first of all, you do have, I will say first of all that you do have $50,000 appropriated this year for the Wellsville Airport. So if you do intend to appropriate and use that appropriation, give it to the Wellsville Airport, you do have to pass a local law this year to be able to give that or provide that appropriated money to them. Also, we can't really do a generic local, or provide a generic local law because we have to have a reason why we are able to provide the money to a municipality. We cannot give, as you all are aware, we cannot give gifts. So there's different reasons why we can provide money or, appropriate money to municipalities. And many of them are in county law. So we would have to be able to state in a local law or be able to give a reason as to why we are appropriating various funds to individuals. So it would be difficult, ambitious for us to try and craft a local law that was able to craft it such that we'd be able to give it to all the, craft a local law that we were able to provide appropriate monies to counties for a particular reason. And I would have to look into that, Legislator Healy, if it would be possible to do for economic development. I've never looked into that.
Well, I guess I don't understand. I don't recall the funding. Did we pass the funding? I don't recall that.
There currently is with a budget of 2025. You
In the
did
budget, but
pass
we
a
didn't-
$50,000 allocation to the airport. That has not been distributed to the airport because you don't have a local law that allows it. right
Okay. So
And
this is so we can give them $50,000 up there where the town offices are and the assessor's offices are. And I don't see much airplane traffic up there. And I asked for a list of all the pilots. They took one building off the tax roll up there, another building off the tax roll up there, I believe. And I asked for a list of all the pilots in this, for each town. This really, what is our argument for economic development? I don't see it, so I think you could make the same argument for any town with anything they're doing. Say, oh yeah, that's for economic development, right?
The concept is that the airport has countywide benefit, and so a portion of the expenses should be borne by the county. I agree. Any town could make that claim on anything that they have within the boundaries of their town that provides, whether it's economic development or tourism benefit or whatever, and say this benefits the county with the colleges or whatever. Deb?
Yeah, I'd like to just debate that with you a little bit, Mike. Although I don't think the airport is as busy as it has been in the past, but I think you can make a case that there's economic development benefits to our county. I know most of what's left of businesses in the area are owned by actually outside corporations, and they fly their people in here to meet with the staff here. You take that ability away and have them fly into Olean, Hornell, or Buffalo. They might look at, let's pull these people out of here, what's left out of here, because it's too much of a struggle to work with the people that are left still here. So I think there is a benefit. I know is dwindling. I think the case that you're talking about, all that information, we should have had that information before we agreed to give them $50,000. And we've talked about this for years, that before we just give money, we really need to have a fiscal accountability from these organizations that are asking us for money and how they're going to use it, the benefits, and what their goals are afterwards, so we know how the money's being used. So I agree with you, we should have had that, but we passed it.
Well,
So, but I think you can make a case that there is an economic benefit to Allegheny County to keep that airport. Once that airport's gone, you don't have it. And now we don't have the ability to go back and attract large companies in here again.
Administrator Knapp?
Okay, maybe you want to simplify. You cannot just give money to individuals unless it's authorized by state law. Giving money to an airport that's not yours, not authorized by state law, which is why you have to create a local law to do it. The last time we did this, we said it was because of industry and tourism, but you could put anything else in there. This is, you are creating the local law, you are providing the reason why you're doing this. This allows you to legally give money to them. After this, you have to not only appropriate money every year, you have to have a contract with the airport every year within the term of this local law, which every time you've given money to the airport, you've done that. That contract has reporting requirements on them. I believe they did provide a report one of the years that you gave them money, but not all of them. We also did receive information from the airport prior to at least one of the years you gave money as to the traffic coming in and out of there. It was not particularly well presented, but Tim did a ton of research and spent a lot of time hounding the airport to get some information on that. We haven't received anything probably in the last 3 to 4 years on that. But we did, at one point in time, have information on traffic coming in and out, who was using it, how often it was being used, and I believe they did provide one annual report.
I'm sure the use has declined since then. I'm sure that and I don't think myself you can make an argument for anything like you said, but if I had a company in Wellsville or Belmont or the surrounding area, if I have to drive another 20 or 30 miles to get to the airport, that's not going to make any much difference to me or anybody else. The airport's not large enough, or never will be big enough, if my understanding is, to really be a commercial airport and sustainable. Obviously, the one business that was up there, Mr. Barnes's business, no longer exists. And I think we got to look at what's practical myself, and not just, because, somebody wants a little funding for a pet project.
Mr. Barnes, then Ms. Burdick.
First of all, the last request, as I recall, reading it, did explain what they used the money for last year. You'd have to go back and check that, but I saw a copy of it, and it seemed to me that it did explain what the money was being used for. The use of the airport by business has decreased because we've got less business in the county of Allegheny, a large business anyway. But for any new business of any consequence over the next few years, if you don't have an airport, you're not going to be talking about anybody from outside of this county even considering Allegheny County for any kind of development. So it's $50,000 is a drop in a bucket for the county. It's $50,000 of taxpayers' money, that's for sure. Allegheny, or the town of Wellsville, I assume, probably contributes more than any other town to the total county tax base. But the $50,000 that they're requesting and have requested since the beginning, they've never changed it, or it's been $50,000. And I will admit that when I advised the town to use that figure when they first made a request. But the airport is definitely an asset to the county. And you talk about if the airport went away, first of all, it would cost, the Federal Aviation Administration would request about somewhere in the neighborhood of $20 million if we just closed it. It's economically not possible for the town of Wellsville to close the airport.
It's $20 million from the town.
$20 million to close the airport because of the grants that they've had over the last, every time they get a grant from the federal government, and in some cases the state government, there's a time limit that
That's town of Wallsville would be
That's correct.
obligated for that.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So we are operating under an assumption here that if the board doesn't provide this $50,000, the airport runs the risk of closing. That has not been
I'm not-
stated to me by anyone. So I don't think we should base our decision-making on whether or not our funding may or may not result in the airport closing.
And I
Now,
don't-
now, that's a con. I will offer a pro as well, and I'm getting to you, Jan. I'm trying to be diplomatic here. The addition of Mercy Flight to the airport is of obvious and significant benefit to the county outside of the realm of economic development and tourism and so forth. And that, I think, should be considered this year when we start talking about this appropriation. But again, we're not talking about appropriating money today necessarily. We're just talking about whether or not to pass this local law. For those who don't want to appropriate in the future, obviously, I wouldn't see any reason why you'd vote in favor of adopting this local law. So we've got Jan, and then Mr. Boyd has a thought.
I just had a question, we have to vote, if we pass the local law, we're obligated then to put it in our budget every year?
No. She said
No, you're not.
Okay, so if we pass a local law, why do we have to go 3 years? Why can't we just go 1 year at a time?
You can set the
Because
expiration
circumstances may
date.
change at the airport.
Correct, you can set the date, you can choose whatever expiration date you want for this local law.
Would it
I
make
just wrote
sense?
3 years, but you can tell me, today we're discussing, this has not been presented yet in its final form. So whatever, if you want to suggest a different date or decide on a different date for me to put in, I will put in a different end date.
So the one that we would be passing for this year to appropriate the 50,000 would be this one for the 3 years.
This is, you can change the date. If you want the final version to say to end on a different date, if you wanted it to expire, if you want to pass it and have it expire on January 1st of 2026 and only have it be good for this year, we can do it that way.
I guess my concern in asking this is that things change. They may get a windfall of money and not need our 50,000. 50,000 is not, in my opinion, a drop in the bucket of our budget. It's a significant amount of money that we can use in other areas. And plus, we are obligating future boards by extending it to 2000.
No.
So, no, not with money. In section 5 of this local law says no obligation for annual funding. This local law shall enable the Allegheny County Board of Legislators to allocate such funds and monies as it may deem proper on an annual basis until such time as it is repealed. There is no requirement, however, that due to the existence of this local law, that money necessarily must be appropriated in any certain
Thank you, I
year.
apologize, I didn't see
No,
that.
that's fine, Jan.
I just think because of that, because there's no obligation to the board, I think you're just giving yourself, and I say yourself, we're giving the county attorney more work if we just go year to year with this thing. There's-
yeah,
I don't see any benefit to it, or it doesn't provide any protection that isn't already written into the law. Mr. Boyd?
Thank you. Just to kind of follow up on some of the other comments. A, we're not really looking for you to obligate funds at this point in time. You're just providing the opportunity to establish this local law. And once a funding request is presented, obviously that's your opportunity to vote it up or down, and based on the merits of the request. I think taking a look at some of the intrinsic benefits of having an airport, when we look at economic development and we look at the ability to market to outside forces, there are three things that Allegheny County has that are really important. We have rail. It may not be used much, but we still have rail. We have air, and we have a good quality of life. We have plenty of water. We have things that we can do. And those are things that we need to have in our arsenal as we move forward in economic development. It may not be that we ever have the opportunity to entice someone to come this direction, but it is also the opportunity that's something that we have in our quiver that we can pull out and sling the arrows when we need to. From another standpoint, we look at the federal funding. We do have allocations that come from Senator Schumer's office and occasionally from Senator Gillibrand's office in the form of allocations. We don't get much support otherwise, but we do get support for the airport. It's somewhat, and I don't mean this to sound as it may come out, oxymoronic to say we want to take the federal money, but we don't want to put any county money into this. I think we need to look at that as kind of our fair share of looking at supporting this. And I think there are other uses beyond when we look at economic development from the standpoint of businesses that may use that airport. We do have, as the chairman indicated, Mercy flights coming in and out of there, and we do have military presence that uses that airport on occasion as well. And I think it would be incumbent on the board to say, let's take a look at the categories of, when it comes time to funding that request, what are the categories that we have for economic development, what are the categories we have for medical emergency, and what are the military implications of this? And by no means is the airport going to fail, but when you look at all of that in a holistic view, it may be worthy of supporting a funding request. Thank you.
And procedurally, today is the day for us to have these really good discussions, because we want to make sure that the local law looks the way that you want it to look and reads the way that you want it to read, because once we start the process, which is the local law has to be presented in its final form, and then we have to set the date for the public hearing and pass that resolution, have the public hearing, and then you have the opportunity to vote for or against the local law. If at any time you suddenly decide, any one of you, that you want to change in the body of the local law, we have to start the process all over. So that is why we are having these discussions today, because we want to make sure that regardless of where your position may be on the local law at this point right now, and any future discussions you may have about it, especially when we bring the MOEs to vote, bring forth for the public hearing, we want to know at least the body of the local law and the contents of it, or the way that you want it to be.
Mr. Ricky?
Does anybody know if the airport charges for takeoffs and landings?
Last I know, it was 0.
See, that's where I have a problem. I go to Wellsville quite often. I like the modern diner, go over there and eat. I spend $20-$30, and that costs me 50 cents or $1 each time I have to put in the parking meter. And I don't quit going there because I got to throw a couple bucks in a parking meter. So I don't think somebody who can afford an airplane can't pay a fee.
But not necessarily takeoff and landing.
See, and I also go to a little diner over in Great Valley where it's Katie's Fly-In. You've probably been there. I eat with pilots all the time. They fly in, have breakfast, and fly out. So if you can afford an airplane, I think you can afford $10 to pay for a takeoff or landing fee.
Deb?
So, just to clear in my mind, has this board approved already that $50,000 for this year?
You put it in your budget, so.
We put it in, but it hasn't been officially approved.
No, the step would be to, number
Right.
one, pass a local law that authorizes you to do it. And then number two, you'd have to come back with a
So
contract.
we have time to ask the airport to bring all the information that everybody's asking for before we vote on that $50,000.
Yeah, and,
So
I do
it's
have
not
a-
like we have to debate those things today. We got time to do that, but we need to ask them to give us the information, Mike, that you were looking for, and John.
it's neither here nor there, but was that money placed in contingency, or is it actually in a budget line?
It's in the budget line.
Okay. Okay. Gary?
I've answered John's question, but Answer John's question about fees. The town of Wellsville sells the fuel over there. Every gallon of fuel, they make $1 plus per gallon. The aircraft owners and airplanes coming and going. On larger aircraft, if you come in there with a big jet, they do, and they do not buy fuel, they do have to pay a $50 or $100 daily fee.
Mr. Havey?
Listening to all of this, I'm happy with the local law as it's written right now. I think it would be impractical to repeat it every year and go through this process. All it does, quite honestly, is grant us the permission to make a decision whether or not to fund this money. So I think the local law is fine. I think we should get with that. However, on the flip side of that, I think that before we vote on actually appropriating that money, I think it would be a marvelous idea if the information that Mr. Healy has asked for would be provided. And also, I think it would be quite informative to have someone from the town of Wellsville speak to us and explain the benefits of the airport. Thank you.
Last word? I'll take it. Oh, darn.
Just one,
Okay, go
I
ahead,
just
Jan.
have a question. Do they have to request the money every year?
Yes.
Yes.
So if they have to request it, why couldn't part of that request be a report? It seems like those go hand in hand.
Best of my knowledge, the last letter that you received did have an explanation of what that money was being used for.
My recollection is the contract, when you give them the annual allotment, let's say you do an annual contract, that contract requires them to report at the end of that year, whether they're requesting for the next year or not, what they did with the money that we used. So that's already in our contract terms, and I think Legislator Barnes is right that the last time they did give us some update of what they used the money for.
Okay. Last question. So if this moves forward, it will become the law of the land prior to the end of 2025, and so we'll have the ability to allocate this year's allotment before the end of the year?
It'll be close, but yes. And just if you don't allocate that money, your options will be two things. Just don't touch it and it rolls over to general fund at the end of the year, or you could do a budget transfer to another account.
All right. So that will move forward to 9/24, September 24th, Ways and Means? Is that the plan?
That is the plan for now, yes.
Okay. All right. I think that was the hardest one. Do you need a chair or stool or anything?
I'm good right now.
Okay. All right. Next one is the ethics law.
I thought this was going to be the hardest one, so we'll see.
It might be. We'll see.
At least you're saving the easiest one for last.
Okay. What are we looking at?
Okay. So our current ethics law was established on July 17th, 1970. Under Local Law 2-1970, which was adopted by Resolution Number 107-70. So it is time for us to update our Code of Ethics and a Board of Ethics. So this local law establishes a Code of Ethics and a Board of Ethics for the County of Allegheny and is repealing Local Law Number 2 of 1970. So what this local law does, it's modeled off the New York State Model Code of Ethics. But what our working group did was we also took into consideration the unique needs and concerns of Allegheny County and address those in here as well. And we did have outside counsel, Gross Schumann, review our local law. Our this local law, asked them some questions specific to Allegheny County and got their legal opinion through a legal memorandum. So we do thank them for their assistance. So I will just go through this section by section with you, and if you have any questions, we can discuss, unless you have a question, Legislator Haley?
Why don't you remind everybody listening who our ethics board is there?
Like the members?
Yes.
The members. I will have the clerk of the board list off our ethics board members for us, please.
I believe it is Darwin Fanton, Dorothy Lundell, Brent Reynolds, Brenda Rigby Reilly,
Kim too.
Him too.
and Kim Tu. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So section 1 is our short title, which just states that our code of ethics will be known as the Allegheny Code of Ethics. Section 2 states our purpose, which Article 18 of the New York State General Municipal Law sets forth the obligations of what is required in a code of ethics. Specifically, Section 806 states the code of ethics and what is required in one. So Section 2 purpose just summarizes that a code of ethics has to be adopted by a governing body of municipality, and that it sets forth the conduct. And then also, that also mentions just briefly our history of when we first established, and that it updates our 1970 Code of Ethics. Section 3 lists all the definitions that are used in the Code of Ethics. It defines what the board means, which is the County Board of Legislators, what the code means, which is our Allegheny County Code of Ethics, county, what an interest means, and an interest is a direct or indirect financial and material benefit. And then it also lists all the different exceptions, which I am happy to explain in greater detail. And it also explains in greater detail later on here in the Code of Ethics, which we'll go over. Defines what a county officer employee is, which also is a paid or unpaid officer employee of the county of Allegheny, which also includes, but is not limited to, all of you as members of the board. A relative, it defines what a relative is, and a relative is a spouse, parent, step-parent, mother-in-law, father-in-law, grandmother, grandfather, grandmother-in-law, grandfather-in-law, sibling, step-sibling, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, child, stepchild, grandchild, uncle, aunt, nephew, niece, first cousins, and then person standing in local parentis, fancy legal word, and then any person considered a dependent for federal, state income tax purposes, or any household member of a county officer or employee.
Can I pause you there, County
Yes.
Attorney? So when she's going through all this, there are portions of this that must adhere to
Correct.
state law, correct?
That is correct.
There are
Yes.
portions, correct me if I'm wrong, such as this definition of relative, within which there is some flexibility. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, you know, I know this process may end up feeling a little cumbersome, but I think it would be appropriate for all of us to consider items such as that. You know, to me, just that definition of relative in a county the size of ours, personally, seems a little too restrictive when it applies to what's permitted and not permitted for county officers, employees, and their relatives within this county. You know, everybody is somebody's first cousin in this county. So these are things, this isn't the only instance, you know, that we'll see in this code of ethics, but we need to consider this and whether or not we want to make some minor changes in this case. Like, what do we want to define as relative? We don't have to do it today, but it's something before we pass this thing, I think we should at least have some discussion about. Mr. Healy?
Also, do we want to take into consideration what we currently define in our contracts with our unions as pertaining to those definitions, or?
So that's something we've looked at when we've gone to renegotiate our contracts. They are not all the same. Relative is, you know, defined differently by each contract, and you get benefits based on that, specifically your bereavement time. And we use this term relative in other places. Our tax sales closing today, that's one place where you do see that certain public officers can't have any of their relatives bidding on that. And we define that in that policy. So we're trying to look at those things, but we are not consistent across any of them. Getting there, but not yet there.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry for the interruption.
No, that's fine, Chairman Harris. And then we also define spouse, which is the husband or wife of the reporting individual. So the reporting individual would be the county officer or employee who would have to report anything under this ethics code, should it be adopted, unless living separate and apart from the person with the intention of terminating the marriage or providing for permanent separation, or unless separated pursuant to a divorce decree or judgment of divorce or a legal separation agreement. Very confusing. So that is section 3 of the definitions. Does anybody have any questions about the definitions? Or comments? Okay. So section 4 talks about, it's titled applicability. So it just states that it applies to to the officers, employees of the county, and it just supersedes any other code of ethics that we would have, or any other financial disclosure policies. And it just references any other resolutions or prior local laws that are applicable, that the board has previously passed. And that this code would also apply in addition to any other state and local laws regarding to conflicts of interest and ethics. And it references Article 18 of the General Municipal Law, which governs the code of ethics. So then, Section 5 talks about the prohibition or use of county position for personal or private gain. And it talks about how no county officer or employee can use his or her county position or official powers or duties to secure a financial or material benefit for themselves or their relative or any private organization in which they may have an interest. And we'll talk about interests a little bit more and what those interests are. Section 6 talks about disclosure of your interest in legislation or other matters. In this specific section discusses that the process when anybody who when you either as an individual or as a member of board, and you may have a direct or indirect financial or material benefit or interest in a contract or any other type of interest, disclosing that interest in writing. And this is all required under Section 803 of General Municipal Law, so that you would have to file your disclosure of interest with the clerk of the County Board of Legislators if you're in an elective office. And if that individual is not an elective office, they would have to file that disclosure with their supervisor. Or if they did not have a supervisor, they'd have to do it with the county officer, employee, or board having the power to appoint that person to their position. So if I had a conflict and I had to file a disclosure, I'd have to file my disclosure with the chairman of the board. And any disclosure made to a board has to be made publicly at a meeting of the board. It must be included in the minutes of the meeting. Are there any questions on Section 6? Okay. Section 7 talks about recusal and abstention. So, no county officer or employee may participate in any decision or take any official action with respect to any matter requiring the exercise of discretion, including discussing the matter and voting on it, when he or she knows or has reason to know that the action could confer a direct or indirect financial or material benefit to himself or herself, a relative, or any private organization in which he or she is deemed to have an interest. And then it goes on to say that if this section, if you must recuse or abstain yourself, if it prevents you from exercising or performing your function that you're supposed to be doing, then another person must perform that function on that board, and that power duty should be exercised by them, or that it must be referred to somebody to, that matter must be referred to, if it's an employee, to their supervisor or designated to another person. Are there any questions about that section? Yes.
I think you requested opinion from outside counsel on this, and if I'm just forgetting what the answer is, I apologize. But let me provide a hypothetical. A member of this legislative body is appointed to an authority, some random authority, say, and I'm going to I'll pick one that we don't actually have, the Power Authority. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it gets appointed to the Power Authority. This board has a history and maintains a contractual relationship with the authority in which it provides county funds to support the authority. A legislator in their private business has opportunity to contract with the authority. Is that permissible? Does it at the very least have to be disclosed? Is it permissible? And if it is permissible through recusal or abstention, is that one of those instances where they would have to recuse or abstain? Or should they not sit on that board at all? Or should they not conduct business with the authority?
Such a complicated question with so many layers. So that would have to be, first of all, that would have to be disclosed, first and foremost.
What if they don't even sit on what if they're not on the authority board? So say Mike Healy installs substations, but he doesn't sit on the authority board, but he does sit on this board, which provides funding to the authority.
So he works for them, but
He contracts with them.
he contracts with them. So if he contracts with them and provides substations, but he doesn't sit on the authority board, he sits on your board. He would have to disclose that interest. And as long as he contracted with them before he joined the board, he could still have that contract with them. But he may not be able to contract with them.
Can he vote on matters regarding their funding?
He should probably not vote on matters regarding their funding. He should at a minimum abstain from those funding, or from those discussions. He may even want to just recuse himself altogether from discussions and the votes.
Additional thoughts, County Administrator?
Well, there's times when you have to recuse yourself, and the board can continue on without you. So this one might not be a prohibited contract, because it's not the board they're talking about that's contracting, it's an outside board that is. But let's say it was this board, and let's say, I don't know, you had a company, Brooke, that you owned, or you were on a board of, that installed ceiling fans, and we wanted a lovely ceiling fan in this boardroom, and the rest of the board knows you're the only vendor in the county that provides this ceiling fan, and you are willing to recuse yourself. You can recuse yourself all you want. It's illegal for this board to enter into that contract because it's prohibited by state law. So there's varying levels of things like the county attorney mentioned. It depends on who is doing the contract and what the relationships are, and then there's a whole list of exceptions. And some of those go to not-for-profits, because we know we like to support our not-for-profits. A lot of them do have contracts with these boards. We have members that sit on them or do work for some of the not-for-profits. Those are exceptions altogether, and there are other things like that. So it is a very complicated thing. You have to look at each individual case, which is why it's important for people to disclose it so that that proper analysis can be done.
Okay. So would it be the county attorney's advice that we just avoid the appearance of impropriety when possible?
Yes, that was always my advice.
Use our best judgment.
Yes,
Okay.
use your best judgment. And
Is-
come talk to me if you're concerned about should or should you not be joining a board or things of that nature.
And Administrator Knapp, you come to me with all of your ceiling fan needs. I am prepared.
Yeah, we were talking about ceiling fans in my office, but not with you. Mr. Boyd back here was thinking about purchasing a ceiling fan, so it was on my mind, so. We could use one to circulate the air in here.
Mr. Healy, you have something?
So that would apply to your spouse too, in that case, right? If she was a member of the company that was involved in the business practice in question.
Yes, so that can also extend to.
And how about a stockholder or in a company?
So yes, except there is an exception to that as well. So if you own less than 5% of the stock in a publicly traded company, you can be involved in a contract with them.
And I think this is where your definition of relative really becomes important, because by law, some people, like spouses, have to be included, while others, like just a general member of your household, like your live-in girlfriend, wouldn't be included. However, the law doesn't include, first cousins, and now we're including it here. And how in the weeds do you want to get? Because do you want, if your first cousin is the ceiling fan company owner, do you want to say, okay, we can never contract with them no matter if you recuse yourself or not? Or do you want to kind of stick to what the state says that you can define those relatives as? So, and that doesn't mean that if you were to be more narrow in your definition of relative here, that you couldn't be more broad when it comes to things like other policies, like nepotism, hiring of employee policies, union bereavement policies. But you do want to be a little careful how broad you go with that definition of relative, because that could really bind you as a board on who you can and cannot contract with, and being responsible for knowing all your first cousins in Allegheny County.
And I assume that is with knowledge, right? If you don't have knowledge that the person's a relative, it wouldn't apply.
Probably a question for the county attorney and/or ethics board.
Yes.
So just to further complicate it, recusals and abstentions are covered in the changes to the board rules too, and there are changes in the board rules from what was previously stated to what is being recommended by the county attorney now, but we don't have to go down that road. All right, is that enough with 7? Okay.
Yes, unless there's any other questions. So then we go to section 8, which is prohibition inapplicable, disclosure, recusal, and abstention not required. And it talks about this code's prohibition on use of a county position, which is section 5, disclosure requirements, section 6, and requirements relating to recusal and abstention, section 7, shall not apply with respect to the following matters: the adoption of the county annual budget, any matter requiring the exercise of discretion that directly affects any of the following groups of people or a lawful class of such groups: all county officers or employees, all residents or taxpayers of the county or an area of the county or the general public, or any matter that does not require the exercise of discretion. And then it further goes on to say that recusal and abstention shall not be required with respect to any matter which comes before a board when a majority of the board's total membership would otherwise be prohibited from acting by section 6 of this code, and which comes before a county officer or employee when the officer or employee would be prohibited from acting by section 6 of this code, and the matter cannot be lawfully delegated to another person. sounds like mud.
So I get a question here. So overall, this law would require no culpability, is that correct? It'd just be strict statute liability or not?
Can you please repeat your question, legislator?
So you don't, like knowingly, you don't have to knowingly do this. It's just a violation of the statute per se.
That's my understanding, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Legislator Barnes.
Microphone, please.
A general question. If a person is the son or daughter of an employee of the county, are we saying that they can't even apply for a job? And if they did apply for the job and they're number one on whatever test they might have to take, you still can't employ them?
I think that's covered in our nepotism policy.
Yes.
Which falls under the administrator's
Right.
office.
No, they can apply for their position. And yes,
Under our current policy, when you apply for employment here, you're supposed to disclose if you're related to anybody in the county. And then we take a look at that. We under our current policy, you shouldn't participate in the direct hiring or supervision of your relative. If it's required to, like we have our rec director for a long time was the mother of some of our lifeguards. We bring it to the board and we get the board's blessing for that because, there's a limited number of lifeguards. We have that in other offices and we disclose it, we get the board's blessing, and we try to find ways for them to minimize any conflicts with discipline or hiring and firing.
Thank you.
so now Section 9 talks about investments in conflict with official duties. So no county officer employee may acquire the following investments. So any investments that can reasonably be expected to require more than a sporadic recusal and abstention under Section 6, any of the code, any investments that would otherwise impair the person's independence of judgment in the exercise or performance of his or her official powers and duties. And then the section, however, does not prohibit a county officer or employee from acquiring any other investments or the following assets. So you can acquire real property located within the county and that is used as your personal residence, less than 5% of the stock of a publicly traded corporation, which we've discussed, and then bonds of notes issued by the county and acquired more than 1 year after the date on which the bonds or notes were originally issued. And that's all set out in Article 18 of General Municipal Law.
Good?
Okay. Section 10, private employment in conflict with official duties. So no county officer or employee during your tenure may engage in any private employment, and that includes any rendition of any business, commercial, professional, or other type of services when the employment can be reasonably expected to require more than sporadic recusal and abstention, can be reasonably expected to require disclosure or use of confidential information gained by reason of serving as a county officer or employee, or it violates Section 805A1C or D of the General Municipal Law, or it requires representation of a person or organization other than the county in connection with litigation negotiations or any other matter to which the county is a party. Any questions? Yes.
Can you summarize briefly Section 805, et cetera?
Let me grab my. That was the only provision of general municipal I did not print out this morning for you. So you cannot enter into any agreement to be paid for services when you have, for a municipal agency, when you have the power to appoint a member or an officer or an employee of that agency. And then you could also not enter into any agreement to be paid for services for any agency or municipality when your compensation is dependent or contingent upon a fixed fee of those services. Any other questions? Okay. Section 11 is future employment. So that says that no county officer employee can ask for, pursue, or accept a private post-government employment opportunity with another person or organization pending before the county officer employee, either as an individual or as a member of a board, while the matter is pending or within 30 days following final disposition of the matter. And that no county officer employee for a 2-year period after serving as a county officer employee may represent or render services to a private person or organization in connection with any matter involving the exercise of discretion before the county office, board, department, or comparable organization unit for which he or she serves. And that no county officer employee at any time after serving as a county officer employee may represent or render services to a private person or organization in connection with any particular transaction in which he or she personally and has substantially participated while serving as a county officer or employee. Any questions?
There were some internal discussions, and again, my memory's failing me, about whether that 2-year mark was appropriate. Anyone want to, either you or the administrator, want to share thoughts on that?
I think it seems like a pretty long time if you have somebody that retires and goes on to consult with somebody that we have longstanding business with, which you do happen to have with a lot of professionals. And you have everyone from medical to accounting, attorneys, engineers that this could come up with. And I don't know if you really want to bind their hands for 2 entire years. It's a long time.
I think that the issue isn't that we're being too restrictive on the employee. I think we're being too restrictive upon ourselves, because it would preclude us from doing business with a particular vendor if they happen to bring on somebody within that 2-year window. So that's another item within here that is within the board's ability to change as we think is appropriate,
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
What's your opinion on that, County Attorney?
So I would say that from my experience in looking at other ethics, code of ethics, that the usual window or time frame is anywhere between 1 year to 2 years. So that would suffice this requirement.
Thoughts from the board? Mr. Havey?
Yeah, I understand the intent of that particular rule. In our situation, probably backing that off to 1 year would probably be appropriate, I would think.
Mr. Healy?
Well, I would go along with that, but even maybe you could put a clause in there that it could be waived by the board. I don't know if that would be appropriate or not, because it'd be the majority of the board, obviously, so it would be like all the rest of our votes.
Is that permissible?
I think it would be difficult on that. However, you could perhaps waive it to the Board of Ethics to render an opinion. I do think this actually places the burden on the county officer or employee, not just the board, too.
Oh, I do too. I know it does, but it hinders the board, is what I'm saying. I mean, you could, imagine a situation where, say the county treasurer wants to continue working after she retires, and she wants to go work for an auditing firm that does business with the county. It would, even if it was 1 year, or if it was 2 years, I guess it doesn't matter, it would restrict them. It would make it less desirable for the employer to hire that person if they knew that, say, the county treasurer or the business itself wouldn't be able to conduct business with Allegheny County for 2 years because of the hiring.
And I can provide even more direct examples of attorneys that retire from here and go on to be on our assigned counsel panel. I don't think they would be allowed to do that for 2 years. And I think you just don't have enough depth of services in this county to put that long of a prohibition on it. If it's not required, you could even take it out, and then if there was anything that became a situation that anybody thought was just improper, they could bring it to the Board of Ethics at any point in time, and you could be looking at it just for the appearances of impropriety.
My only concern with taking it out completely is that I know there have been statewide audits going on with the Code of Ethics, and that the statewide auditors have been commenting that dinging counties for not having.
Is it required, though?
It may be, I would have to check to see if it is required. They may be requiring
They
it.
can't ding us for things that aren't required, correct?
Correct. I'm not sure if it is a requirement. It may be a requirement. I would have to check on that. I can
Let's,
check on if
to be
it's a
continued
requirement.
on that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. It sounds like the board maybe would like a little bit more leeway. But okay, 12.
12 is about personal representations and claims permitted. So this says that this does not prohibit a county officer or employee from representing himself or herself or their spouse or minor children before the county, or asserting a claim against the county on their own behalf or on behalf of their spouse or their minor children. Are there any questions on that one? So we'll go on to section 13, which is use of county resources. And it states that county resources shall be used for lawful county purposes, and it defines county resources as including but not limited to county personnel, the county's money, vehicles, equipment, materials, supplies, or other property. It says that no county officer or employee may use or permit the use of county resources for personal or private businesses. However, it does not prohibit the use of county resources as authorized by law or county policy. The use of county resources for personal or private purposes when provided to a county officer or employee as part of his or her compensation. The occasional or incidental use during the business day of county telephones and computers for necessary personal matters, for example, family care, changes in work schedule. And then it also states that no county officer or employee shall cause the county to spend more than is reasonably necessary for transportation, meals, or lodging in connection with official travel. Any questions?
Allison, I just have a question on the meals. Don't we have a set policy on how much can be spent on
Yes.
meals?
Yes, we do.
So should that refer to that? Because this is just saying any more than is reasonably necessary, but that's pretty open.
Yes, I can get the reference to that and include that in there for you, Legislator
Thank you.
Burdick. Section 14 talks about interests in contracts. So on your desks this morning, I provided the copies of the Section 801 803 and also 802 that we'll be getting into. So you have the exact language. I also provided you a little cheat sheet of the common prohibitions of 801, well, of the prohibitions in section 801, and then some of the common exceptions in general municipal law, section 802, that come up the most here come up most here in Allegheny County, just for the purposes of this discussion, and that you can also use for your reference. So section 14 says that no county officer employee may have an interest in a contract that is prohibited by section 801 of the general municipal law. And if I can get it here. And so those prohibitions include that any municipal officer or employee cannot have a contract, an interest in a contract when they individually or as a member of the board have the power or duty to negotiate, prepare, authorize, or approve a contract, or authorize or approve a payment under the contract. They can audit bills or claims under a contract, or they can appoint an officer or an employee who has any of those powers or duties. And if you are a chief fiscal officer, treasurer, or the deputy or employee of a chief fiscal officer or treasurer, you cannot have an interest in a bank or trust company that's designated, have an interest in a bank or trust company designated as a depository, paying agent, registration agent, or for investment of funds in the municipality of which you are an officer or an employee. So that's what section 801 states. The Ethics Code goes on to say that the provisions of section 801 of general municipal law shall not apply to the following contracts. And these are, so it's a contract with a person, firm, corporation, or association in which a municipal officer or employee has an interest, which is prohibited solely by reason of employment as an officer or employee, if the remuneration of such employment is not directly affected as a result of the contract, and the duties of such employment do not directly involve the procurement, preparation, or performance of any part of the contract. A contract with a membership corporation or other voluntary nonprofit corporation or association, including but not limited to a rural electric cooperatives, any other contract exception set forth in section 802 of general municipal law. And I gave you a little cheat sheet with some other exceptions. And then the copy of the law also lists, the actual law also lists some exceptions. Actually all the exceptions. And then every county and officer and employee shall disclose interest in contracts with the county at the time and in the manner requested by section 803 of the general municipal law. And I provided you with a copy of general municipal law, section 803. And that talks about, in general municipality, section 803 talks about putting it in writing and disclosing it and providing it to the supervisor. And that was also included earlier in the code of ethics that we discussed. Are there any questions? I know it's a lot of information. Okay. If you have any questions after the fact, after we have this discussion, you can feel free to call, email me, or stop by my office, and I'll be happy to talk about this with you. We're almost done. Section 15 talks about nepotism, except as otherwise required by the law or approved by you as the board. No county officer, employee, either individually or as a member of the board, may participate in any decision specifically to appoint, hire, promote, discipline, or discharge a relative for any position at, for, within the county or a county board, and no county officer or employee may supervise a relative in the performance of that relative's official powers or duties. Section 16, political solicitations. No county officer or employee shall directly or indirectly compel or induce a subordinate county officer or employee to make or promise to make any political contribution, whether by gift of money, service, or other thing of value. And then also no county officer or employee may act or decline to act in relation to appointing, hiring, or promoting, discharging discipline, or changing the official rank, status, or compensation of any county officer or employee or an applicant for a position on the basis of giving or withholding or neglecting to make any contribution of money or service for any political purpose. Any questions? All right. No? Okay, Section 17 is confidential information, and that just simply states that a county officer or employee, in the course of exercising or performing their powers or duties, may disclose or use such information unless may not use confidential information unless the disclosure or use is required by law in the course of exercising or performing their official powers and duties. I omitted a word. Section 18 talks about gifts. So no county officer or employee shall solicit or accept or receive a gift in violation of Section 805A1A of the General Municipal Law. No county officer or employee may directly or indirectly solicit any gift. A county officer or employee may not accept or receive a gift or multiple gifts from the same donor having an annual aggregate value of $75 or more when the gift reasonably appears to be intended to influence the officer or employee in the exercise or performance of his or her official powers or duties. The gift could be reasonably expected to influence the officer or employee in their performance of or their exercise of their powers or duties, or the gift is intended as a reward for any official action on the part of the county officer or employee. And Section D defines gift as anything of value, whether in the form of money, service, loan, travel, entertainment, hospitality, thing or promise, or in any other form. The value of a gift is the gift's fair market value determined by the retail cost of the item or a comparable item. The fair market value of a ticket entitling the holder to food, refreshments, entertainment, or any other benefit is the face value of the ticket or the actual cost to the donor, whichever is greater. Determination of whether multiple gifts from a single donor exceeds $75 must be made by adding together the value of all gifts received from the donor by a county officer or employee during the 12-month period preceding the receipt of the most recent gift. And then Section 18E talks about when a gift to a county officer or employee is presumed to be intended to influence the exercise or performance of official powers or duties, and when it's presumed to be intended as a reward for official action. And then Section F says it does not prohibit any other gift, including gifts made to the county, gifts from a person with a family or personal relationship with the county officer or employee, where their circumstances make it clear that the personal relationship, rather than the recipient's status as a county officer or employee, is the primary motivating factor for the gift. Gifts given on special occasions such as marriage, illness, or retirement, which are modest, reasonable, and customary. unsolicited advertising or promotional material of little intrinsic value, awards and plaques having a set value of $75 or less, which are publicly presented, and then meals and refreshments provided when a county officer or employee is a speaker or participant at a job-related professional or educational conference or program. And the meals and refreshments are made available to all participants. Any questions? Section 19 talks about the coverage of the board's regular, special, and committee meetings. So this is a new section that we've added. This talks about our televised proceedings and recordings of our regular, special, and committee meetings. This addresses how our recording or how televised proceedings and recordings can be used and it involves federal and state regulations as well. So this says that any televised proceedings, recordings of the board's regular, special, and committee meetings may not be used for political purposes pursuant to Public Officers Law, Section 73B. In addition, no portion of any televised proceedings and recordings may be utilized for campaign or political purposes to promote or oppose the candidacy of any person for any elective office.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes.
So I understand it, but to state any televised proceedings and recordings and not specifying that they were produced by the county limits someone, say Channel 2 News is here and they're recording the proceedings of our meeting. Are we attempting to prohibit somebody from utilizing those televised materials for campaign or political purposes? Are we just trying to limit the use of county-owned materials?
I thought it was county-owned.
It was county-owned.
So that section of Public Officers Law already makes it illegal for anything that we've used, I believe, county resources to produce media for us as public officers or elected officials to appear in, like, a portion of that's been used as a commercial. And I want to, it's also illegal for people to use it for their candidacy, but I have a particular concern because you might unknowingly appear in somebody else's commercial, that I want to make it clear that when we're here, we're not subjecting each other to that. It is the law, but I wanted to stress that.
Can we clarify that within the language to say that it's county-produced or county-owned video material, audio material?
I think maybe the county attorney could go back to that section of law and maybe just take the definition of that and put it in there. Might help.
I can clarify.
Can do, okay.
Section 20 talks about the Board of Ethics, that there's an established Board of Ethics for the county that will consist of 5 members, that they be appointed by the County Board of Legislators, that they'll serve at the pleasure of the appointing authority, receive no salary or compensation for their services. And then Section 20B just talks about their duties, which are set forth in Article 18 of the General Municipal Law, that they will render advisory opinions, have the advice of legal counsel employed by the Board of Ethics. If none, the county attorney or designee of the county attorney can provide it. They may make recommendations with respect to the drafting and adoption of a code of ethics or amendments thereto upon request of the County Board of Legislators. Section 21 talks about annual financial disclosure. Yes.
So just go back up to that. Well, it almost seems like you're not pointing any fingers at the individuals on there, but almost seems like it's a conflict to have people that work for us on the Board of Ethics. To me, even maybe per this law.
So the Board of Section 20 does say that it shall consist of 5 members, a majority of whom shall not be officers or employees of the county, but at least one of whom must be a county officer or employee. So,
And that's the general municipal law?
and that is my general municipal law.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Since we're back on Ethics Board,
Yes.
do they have their own bylaws?
I can't recall. I would have to check to see if they do.
They might not need a section of bylaws, really. I mean,
I guess my question is, I'm beating around the bush. Does this board determine the length of their term? Is that defined somewhere else and we have to adhere to it?
Let me check.
Number of members, frequency of meetings, all that.
I don't believe the section law is going to tell you anything
Right.
about the frequency of meetings, and I think Allison gave you the term of office. I thought their term of office ran concurrent with this board. They typically don't meet unless they have had a referral. I think they probably should meet at least once a year just to make sure they, know where the code of ethics are and they're familiar with it. My understanding is all the referrals they've had, at least in my tenure, have not been our referrals. They've been referrals from local municipalities, towns, which they are obligated to take.
And also, we also do the financial disclosure statements, and it may not, that may also be a great opportunity for them to meet once a year.
Right,
too, just to
that's their
make-
responsibility, right? To review the disclosure?
Yes, and many Board of Ethics meet to review those once a year as well, too.
Opportunities.
Opportunities.
Jen? Microphone, sorry.
Just a question on, am I reading this right? A majority of whom shall not be employees of the county?
Yes,
So.
that is correct.
But one has to be.
Yes, that is according to the law.
Okay. I guess I don't know the people. I mean, I know you read the names of the people, but so,
Two are county employees.
Okay.
One is at least one is a former county employee.
okay.
Correct. And the other two, to my knowledge, have never been employed by the county.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. I didn't realize that. Thanks.
So Section 21 talks about our annual financial disclosure. So Section A talks about a covered officer employee, and those are specific county positions who are either, who we still need to identify here in the Code of Ethics. And then after the adoption, local law would be designated by either the county administrator or by resolution of this board. And then we talk about filing the annual statement of financial disclosure, which our template is attached to the Code of Ethics, which must be filed with the county, the clerk of the county board of legislators on and before the 15th day of May. And it talks about the extension of time that they can request. Are there any questions? Yes, Legislator Bergen.
Are there any consequences if someone doesn't file their annual financial disclosure? I mean, it's required, right?
Yes.
So there's no consequence if you don't do it or refuse to do it?
So there can be, so consequences can be established, yes. I'm not sure if there are any at this time.
Well, if they file a false one, then it's criminal, isn't it?
Yes.
So, okay. So I had a question going back here to the end of here. Shouldn't there be like some sort of a disclaimer in there that none of this supersedes any federal or state laws pertaining to such conduct also?
In what section?
Just at the end to remind everybody that, I mean, this isn't the end all. There's still
Yes, I
you have
can,
to put, yes.
yes, I can include
Obey all
that.
federal and state laws pertaining to said behavior. I mean, you got a lot of laws in state
I
New
can
York,
include that,
public
yes.
officers law, you could go on.
Yes.
just that, something general like that would be, I think, good, just as a reminder to
Yes.
everybody.
Any other questions? So section 22 talks about posting, distribution, in training. So under General Municipal Law, section 807, it requires that a copy of this code and any amendment to this code has to be posted publicly and conspicuously in each building that's under the county's control. And then it has to be posted within 10 days following the date on which this ethics code takes effect. And that the county personnel officer must also cause a copy of this code, including any amendments, to be distributed to every person who is or becomes an officer and employee of the county as well. And then every county officer or employee who receives a copy of this code or an amendment to the county shall acknowledge such receipt in writing. And such acknowledgments must be filed with the county personnel officer who shall maintain an acknowledgement as a public record. And then all county officers and employees subject to the requirements of this code of ethics are required to undergo annual ethics board training to inform and educate them as to the requirements of the code and to timely confirm in writing completion of such training requirements. Annual training shall commence no later than 2 years after the adoption of this local law and shall occur annually thereafter.
Who's in charge of ensuring that compliance? Is that through HR? Is that through Heather?
You're referring to financial disclosures?
No, I'm referring to annual training.
The ethics training.
We haven't decided how that's going to work yet.
This is new. This didn't exist in our old 1970.
No,
Wow.
this is a state requirement, New York State requirement.
I think prior to that, we were only required to post it and disseminate it, so. We always want training, we just haven't figured out, I think first we gotta figure out what we're training them on, and then we'll figure out how to implement it. Normally, that would be just giving it to them, making sure they've received it, have a person to ask about any questions and sign off on it.
Okay.
And then section 23 just talks about enforcement. Any county officer or employee who violates this code may be censured, fined, suspended, or removed from office or employment in the manner provided by law. Section 24 talks about repealing the prior local law number 2 of 1970. And then the effective date, it will take effect immediately upon filing in the office of the Secretary of State. And we've made it to the end.
I do want to answer on that financial disclosure. You can be assessed a civil penalty on an amount not to exceed $10,000. We have talked about having to figure out how you start going down that route, because we do have people that don't comply. Most of the time, after Brenda hounds people, they do comply. But we have talked about in the past how we start to enforce that.
She's not referring to anybody in this room. You're not on camera. Steve?
Okay, just so I understand, I would guess that if, under enforcement, if a county officer or employee violates the code, I would assume that this would go to the Board of Ethics to start with, and then a recommendation brought to our board for action, I would guess.
Yes, that would be my,
Do we, as a board, have the ability to remove from office someone who is elected? We don't, do we?
no.
Okay. Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you can't get rid of me.
And if you have any other questions or comments, any other additions or edits you'd like to see for the final draft, again, please email me, call me.
Microphone, please. Microphone, please.
With the distribution and under the distribution training, I know at other places I've worked, when we get something, we sign it, it has to be turned in and kept on file. Is that part of this right here, or
Yes.
should be added? Okay.
Yes. Yes, that will have to happen.
Yeah.
And I think the training is still optional. I don't really think that's in the law that we have to do that, but obviously it's a good idea if we can come up with some training. But we do have to post this, and we have to post the statutes that the county attorney has provided today to talk about too.
Okay, so this is going to go to Ways and Means on the 24th to set the date for the public hearing?
That is also the plan at the moment.
Okay.
Yes.
And in the interim, if we want to have discussions regarding things like what is a relative and what isn't a relative and what should and shouldn't be included, we can have those. Can we amend the local law after the public hearing? Is that how that works?
No. So if you amend the way that the process will work is that the way that the process works is that once the local law is presented, which will occur at the first board meeting in October, according to the current time schedule, any changes that you want to make to that local law would then start the process all over again. So you have until the first board meeting in October to make any final edits, changes that
Okay.
you want to it.
It could go through Ways and Means.
So the resolution for the public hearing can go through Ways and Means at the time. But once you actually present the local law in its form, that starts the process of the local law going through the board.
Okay.
Right. And then once you want to make any changes to it, that stops the process and we have to start the process all over again. It works differently than a resolution.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Healy?
You understood what I meant by the disclaimer in
Yes,
the end
I
about
do.
the federal
I
and state laws, and I mean, that protects us against a lot of things that aren't mentioned in here that we all know are illegal or should know are illegal by now through some of our other trainings and stuff. I think that would be good just to throw that in there at the end and remind everybody of that.
Yeah.
And also gives us a little cover should they commit any of those acts, I would think. No?
Thank you.
Ms. Knapp, did you have something?
Yeah, I think I'm just a little lost. So we have the financial disclosure as Appendix B. Appendix A is supposed to be any covered officer employee. I don't have Appendix A. And I just want to point out that every time you add an office, like you create a new office like conflict defender, you will have to then amend this local law to change those appendix. I do not believe you need to have those appendix incorporated in this local law. You can pass those by separate resolution, which is what we did in the past by that one resolution referred to in 1990. You may want to consider keeping those two separate so that you're not constantly having to go through this process of amending a local law just to change the form of your financial disclosure. That could go anywhere from the amounts you put on there, the offices covered. And we do have a history of either removing offices or adding them. And I know local laws are expensive, so.
Whatever you guys think is best.
That's fine. I can make those changes.
All right, good on that one? All right, rapid fire. Youth hunt.
This should be the easiest local. So New York State legislature extended their legislation for the youth hunt temporarily to go through December 31st, 2028. So I have drafted a local law to extend Allegheny County's youth hunt local law to go through December 31st, 2028. That was the only change I made to the language of your previous local law. I copied it word for word, except changed the end date.
Okay, so the board has a history of supporting this. We don't have to, but probably appropriate at least to introduce the local law so the public has the opportunity to weigh in at a public hearing. I assume we're going to continue to support this, but, so any questions on that? Okay. I'll give you a break here, Allison, and just cover D here. We had a meeting with the sheriff, Ian Jones, county attorney, administration, to keep the ball moving on the animal abuse registry. There's one kind of piece of administrative clarification that the district attorney needs to get from DCJS about what kind of authority he has to apply criminal charges and prosecute criminal charges related to the registry. So until we hear back from DCJS on that, it's just kind of paused. But progress is being made. Everybody seems to be like they're on board. So that's a to be continued. Did I summarize that well enough, Legislator Hanchett? Yes, you did. Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Caro. Okay. Let's hit what we have to hit. Would anyone care to make a motion to take the agenda out of order and consider number 10, new business, before items 6 through 9? Thank you, Legislator Root, seconded by Legislator Havey. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, and that's carried. And that means Administrator Knapp, if you have any interest in providing an update on the Connect All grant.
Thank you. Some of you may have remembered a few months back, we were approached by a company called CBN, Community Broadband Network, to provide a letter of support for their application to Connect All to run fiber in the county. And it was a very last-minute request. I believe my deputy, Alex Smith, and maybe a legislator or two jumped on that call, decided it was worthy enough to put that letter of support in. And lo and behold, they were awarded the grant. It turns out that the grant is not without county participation, so we need to do more than write a letter of support. And there are different models. I've talked to Connect All, I've talked to this organization as well. The first model is that this is county-owned fiber. It'd be 86 miles of fiber in the county. And after the grant money is dried up for the installation of it, we would be responsible for maintenance of it and operation of it. We would also share in the profits from any services that were rendered. So any last mile providers that were hooked onto it, we would profit from that, or any direct customers. Another model would have us being less of a partner. They haven't really been able to flush that out, but the very last model, which is the one I think you'd be most inclined to do, would be that we just sit on a governance committee to make sure it's run correctly, and this community broadband network would be responsible for all of the cost of the fiber, the maintenance cost going forward, and they would hold all the profits. They still have a lot of answers or questions that are unanswered. The one where we would be in control of everything, or the partner that ends up with it all, we would have to front the money up to $5 million, which would start in next month. We are nowhere prepared for this. I told both Connect All and this organization, CBN, that there had been no previous ask of the county of any financial assistance or any organizational assistance. We'd also have to do all the poll agreements ourselves, and that we are not in a position to have the capacity, either financially or with staff, to do that. The very last model, where we just sit on the governance committee, I think we could handle that. I do still have an outstanding question, because it does look like both Connect All and CBN want us to be the pass-through where we front the money, which I do not believe we can do at this point in time, even though Connect All promises that they can reimburse in a timely fashion. My recommendation would be to go forward with this, if only we are not the ones fronting the money, and that we don't have any legacy cost. 86 miles of fiber is very significant in the county. That would enhance our current services, allow us to get places that we're not currently seeing residents with service. But this is not presented to us in such an organized fashion that I can really back this any further than just to say that we'd be happy to support their project and be on any governance committee to make sure it runs correctly.
Have they provided any details other than the number of miles of fiber? How many residences served? What townships?
They gave us a PowerPoint right before we left for NISAC. And then I think earlier this week, they provided some draft contracts because I couldn't, the PowerPoint doesn't give me any of the legal terms. So I don't know if they know how many customers.
Is the PowerPoint something you can share with us?
I could, yep, I could do that.
Sure, contracts are.
Yep. So if I just want to make sure, they want to start beginning of October. So they have a lot of pressure on us as well as Connect All. And I don't think that this was properly explained to the county when they asked for this letter of support, or else we would have been asking these questions up front. And we also have not heard from this company up until just recently after the grant was awarded. And they kind of seem to be scrambling.
Gretchen, I'm sorry, Gretchen, then Deb.
I guess after going through our ethics and that, does that fall on being on a governance committee compared to being an employee?
I think you'd be fine on the governance committee, because
Not a
I'm
board.
assuming that would be set up as either like an advisory board, something that we would be legally obligated to be in. And of course, we have not-for-profits and other things
Right,
that are exceptions.
Right, thank you.
Deb?
So if we don't jump on the fiscal part of it, do they have the money to do this? Or are they going to walk away?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
And if we do the last sit on the governance board, would that be a function that the ACTDC board could do?
Well, I certainly, and Kier and Alex have been on a phone call or two with them, and we've mentioned ACTDC and where they're at and whether they would be a good fit to help. It's possible that that's something that we could maybe mesh those two.
I'm not getting the impression that anybody's opening up their wallets today for them. Does everyone feel comfortable with the administrator's position that we want to be supportive in all aspects other than financial? I mean, I personally, even to just support them in concept, I would feel uncomfortable providing that support without some details about, 86 miles doesn't mean anything to me. I would like to know how many people are actually being served, what locations.
I do have some rates. So they've done a little bit of business in New York State. They partnered with Syracuse, and Syracuse used their ARPA money to provide, I think, free internet to residents in certain areas of Syracuse, and they partnered with these people to build it. But they're smaller, but they do have some limited experience in New York, and they do have some pricing models that's in the PowerPoint. So that part they got.
Get us everything you
I will.
can.
Yep. And I did tell them that in order for you to make an informed decision, I really needed more info, and you'll see what I have.
Okay, so that'll just come up in committee one of these
I
days?
need to answer them like yesterday, pretty
Okay,
much.
well,
They are
you've got that answer.
Yep. And then I will, if they like that answer and they're willing to go forward, I will bring it up in a committee.
Okay, before I lose you, did we not have other companies that had stated they were going to apply for this funding?
So Verizon also asked for a letter of support. I think that might have been a different line of funding through Connect All. I don't think it was this particular one.
And no update from them?
No update on that one.
Okay.
And the funding's through the state that they're getting?
Yes,
It's federal funding passed through the state.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, good there? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, back up to 6. This is just informational and something for the board to consider. We've got some time. We've been talking about strategizing a more effective way for the board to receive information on the budget as opposed to our traditional budget hearings. I put it on your desks and it'll be attached in the minutes, but I didn't have time to get it in the agenda. Jumping in the Wayback Machine to the battle days when I was the budget committee chair, and we had the not so popular idea of providing the budget survey to department heads. They filled out the budget survey and supplied it to the board. I didn't make any changes to that whatsoever. I just went back in my email, found it, printed it out. This is a possibility for us. If it's something we want to do as opposed to the budget hearings, if it's something Jan wants to do with her committee, have them do this again, go through this process. Again, I don't think they loved it, and it wasn't perfect either. But if that wanted to get refined and resubmitted, we could have the department heads complete the survey for our consideration, and then if questions or comments arise from what they provide in the surveys, then we could ask them through their relevant committee or through budget to address the board on those questions or comments. So I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility. I'm not married to it. It's just a thought. So that's all we've got there. I'm hoping I can get a motion to take agenda item 7, which is a discussion of the next year's committee structure and possibly scheduling, and make a motion to just move it forward to next Wednesday's Committee of the Whole as an agenda item, so we can clear it off our desk right now. Thank you, Mr. Havey, seconded by Legislator Hanchett. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? That's carried. And Brenda, I'd just ask if you remind me that we add that as an agenda item for next week. Thank you. And then I think this must be you, Brenda, last board meeting of the year.
So, right now, the last board meeting of the year falls on a county holiday, Christmas Eve, so we need to move it. And some of the suggested dates have been the Monday, the 22nd, Tuesday, the 23rd, Thursday, the 17th, and Friday, the 18th. So we need to pick a date to move that last board meeting of the year.
All right, before we open discussion on that, I want to go to the back table. Any of those dates not good for your operations?
We discussed some of the dates with Brenda regarding the audits, and we could not go to the last week of the month because we used 2 of those dates as the payable dates in January. So we were happier with the the 22nd or the 23rd.
Is there any issue with having the last meeting like on a 17th or whatever, and then you're going 2 weeks, you're going all the way into the new year without the ability to conduct business? Is that an issue?
That is an issue because then you only have, you have some prepaids, you only have one prepaid date because of the way the Christmas holiday falls. Let me just pull up a calendar, hang on just a second. So when you're looking at the calendar for December, if you put your board meeting on the 17th, that only gives us the 19th to do any other payables for the year. And that really does cut us short because a lot of people need checks before a grant expires. They have to have checks cut. Even if we do an audit on the 22nd or the 23rd, we still really only have the 19th. So the 22nd, 23rd does get us a chance to catch up, but it's totally up to you guys. I mean, we'll try to work with whatever you do, but there are just some complications that could arise.
Anybody have any, sounds like, what was it, 21st, 22nd, 23rd?
22nd is the Monday.
Sounds like those are the preferred dates, 22, 23. Any thoughts from the board? Rather do Monday.
Probably won't have everybody anyway, so.
The only other suggestion I have is if you're going to do it on just the 17th, and you're going to do that as the last audit, the sooner the better for us to be able to get that out to departments that they know they have got to have everything they want paid by the end of the year to us by the 10th of December. So,
Probably get more
I mean,
turnout then.
we can try as hard as we can to do that, but
Sounds like 17th.
Or did you mean the Thursday, the 18th, Terry?
is that what you had said? The 17th is already your meeting date. I
Yeah,
didn't know
it
if
is.
that was the
So that'd
day.
be 2 days.
Oh,
Yeah.
like we could have it at 10 a.m.?
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't know, or switch the committees to the morning and board to the afternoon or whatever, but.
That's what I do.
I'm good. I like that myself.
I'll have lunch.
So you could make the 17th work?
We can try. Let me get an email out, but I think we can try to do the 17th. That would give us, it really puts the onus on the departments, so.
So you're thinking 12/17 at 10 a.m.?
Won't we have committee?
We have committees that day. You might want to do committees in the morning and then board in the afternoon. I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever works for you guys, but.
Chairman can buy us all lunch.
I had to text Charity.
Bring a jug of eggnog. All right, so 17th, we'll shoot for it. Guess not. All right, well, while we're at it, is the board comfortable with the second board meeting of the month falling on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
Better than.
Anybody out of town other than, I heard Jan, but anybody out of town that Wednesday? Would you be out of town Tuesday too? I mean, really, all we could do is move it to a Tuesday. If everybody wants to come in Wednesday, there is football on that day.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we're good with that? Okay. All right, is that good for you, Brenda?
I can be available on whatever day the board picks.
I can read between the lines on that one. I tried, Brenda.
It's fine.
I mean, Tuesday would definitely be better.
Tuesday would be better.
Lots of people take that Wednesday off. They go hunting, they have family in
Slim people
town.
here.
Yeah, they travel. Would anyone object to moving it to Tuesday? Yeah. Would you object to that, Mr. Barnes? I saw your hand go up.
I don't see any reason for it.
So that's not really an objection.
I think it's something about making pies.
Oh, you gotta make your pies. Okay, if there's only minor objection, let's move it to Tuesday. Can we do that, Brenda?
Sure, 11:25 at 2 p.m.
Yep.
And then Ways and Means would also be moved to 1 p.m. that day.
Sounds good. Okay, good. Jumping down to 9, unfinished business. Any unfinished business? Back to 10, any other new business? Anything for the good of the order? Would anyone care to make a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Legislator Ricky, second by Legislator Healy. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, we're adjourned.